We're live. I'm gonna wait just a couple seconds for everyone to come in. I know I'm a little late. We're back. This is day 4 of Lead Your Health with Gina. I will post links to yesterday's because I think yesterday's was very helpful for a lot of people. So I'm going to post the link for yesterday's below this video at the end. I will go ahead and post for days 1 and 2 as well, but I'm not going to be able to continuously do that because I'm going to be doing a live stream every day, so it's going to be kind of hard to post the links to every single one of them. But if you're looking for the links for previous days relating to this particular live stream topic, simply look for the hashtag #LeadYourHealth and you will be able to find these particular videos. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is anxiety and stress and how it can affect the body, and I'm going to give you different strategies to help you to kind of heal from the possible effects of the anxiety. And I'm also going to share with you a couple stories of mine, different episodes that I've gone through, and how I learned I was initially coping, but then how I really wanted to overcome the symptoms that I was experiencing, because I really wanted to thrive, not just cope with them on a daily basis. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, and I'm going to be sharing with you some essential oils that are helpful for anxiety. I'll also share with you a few blends that you may want to try. I'll share with you a couple some other natural remedies that you may want to try as well, to help you to kind of to help with any anxiety issues that you might experience. So I'm going to be giving you quite a few strategies. I do have a lot of notes in front of me that I've jotted down over the last day or so. So I'm going to just kind of jump in and just start. If you're coming in and just simply say hi just by posting a comment below or sending a wave. All you have to do, if you have any questions at all, is simply post the comment or question in the comment section below, and I will get back to those as quickly as I can, either doing another live stream or by simply responding here in the live stream as well. All right, so said we're going to be talking about anxiety. What exactly is anxiety? Well, I want to say the medical definition for anxiety is a mental health disorder that is characterized by feelings of worry, of anxiety or fear that are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. And examples of these range from panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorders, to PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorders. But it's not just limited to that, because I know that there are probably a lot of you who are feeling some bit of anxiety because of everything that's been happening in the world today. So many of us have been kind of cooped up in our homes for an extended period of time, and that's not something normal for everybody to experience. So I know that I think if you ask the majority of people right now if they're experiencing any kind of anxiety, they'd probably say yes. But it may not be to the extent of someone who's gone through a traumatic event or a panic attack, So, but it doesn't necessarily say that, that person's anxiety, just because they're not experiencing from PTSD, is any less than somebody who has gone through a serious trauma, right? Because the feelings are there, and they're very real. All right, so what I do want you to know is that the anxiety is treatable, and it's usually something that you can diagnose yourself because you know how you're feeling. But what I do want you to know is that you can get help if it is serious enough and you feel that it's serious enough that you have to reach out to someone. Please reach out to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a good friend. If you don't think you really need to see some, a medical professional, just reach out to someone and talk to them about how you're feeling. But reach out and talk to someone. That's the bottom line. If you do feel that it's serious enough that you have to reach out to a medical professional, then please do so. Please know that I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor here. So what I'm giving you are just things that I have worked with that have helped me with the anxiety that I experienced. I would love for you to do your research on your own. I'm going to go through these rather quickly, so you don't have to take notes right this second. The video is going to be recorded so that you can always go back and you can write down your notes at that point. That way you can simply stop the video or pause the video and you can make your notes, because I'm going to be going through quite a lot of things, and this would be a really long video if I stopped and tried to explain everything that I'm going to be talking about. So it will be available for you to take notes at a later time, or to take notes once the live is over and it's been saved on Facebook. All right, so again, it is treatable. Anxiety, stress, it is treatable, and you can usually diagnose it yourself because, like I said, you know how your body is feeling. And right now, a lot of people are undergoing anxiety or experiencing anxiety because we've been cooped up in our homes for so long, and we're not, this is not something normal for us to be going through. All right, I might have mentioned, I think I mentioned this before, about one of the really bad experiences that I had. They say that when you're experiencing stress or anxiety, you usually have two responses, and that's the fight or flight. Well, I venture to say that there's three. There's the fight, there's flight, or there's freeze. And there are some animals in nature who, when they're being attacked, they I think it's the gazelle would just freeze and act as if they're dead, and that would kind of stop whenever animal is trying to prey on them, to kind of allow them to kind of leave, and then they would just simply leave the gazelle alone. Or whatever animal has that ability to play dead. There are quite a few of them. So that's why I venture to say that there's actually three responses that the body goes through when we're put through an anxiety or stressful situation, and that is we can either fight, or we can flee, or the flight part, or we can freeze. And there are cases where we simply freeze, and I think that the body gets to a point, when you do freeze, it causes such a serious impact on the nervous system. And I think a lot of the times the body gets locked. We can literally lock that into our DNA, and it continues to affect us for periods on end. And I think this is why a lot of the soldiers who are coming back from wars, they have such horrible PTSD, because even though they're no longer in the war, you can't really use the fight part, right? I mean, yes, they went through the fight. Flight, they're no longer in the war itself, but the freeze, here they are away from the war. They're brought back into what would be considered a normal situation, but yet maybe they hear something that sounds like a gunshot. Maybe it's fireworks, but it sounds like a gunshot. So I think their body is literally like locked in that moment where they still feel like they're in a war, even though they're not. And I think that's where the freeze part comes in, because I think it literally, like, our DNA literally absorbs that moment. So unless we go through therapy or some other modality to really heal from that situation, we can carry it in our blood, in our DNA, for a long, long time. So this is what I'm saying. If you feel that you are at that point where it's just extremely challenging for you, then please reach out and speak to a professional. Don't try to treat that yourself or have a friend treat it for you. If it is that extreme, please go and seek a professional. One of the things that I did go through was to have a knife put to my throat. And I spoke about this story before, And but I didn't mention this part. It took me a long time before I could handle a knife again. Now we're talking about one of those big knives that you use to chop up meat with and that sort of thing. I couldn't have any of those knives in my home. I think it took about probably close to 2 years before I could have those type of kitchen tools in my home, right? And it actually took a really good friend of mine who had come to the house and was cooking with me, and he was looking for a knife because he was trying to chop up some meat, and there wasn't any. And he looked at me. Hi, Morris. Good to see you again. And he looked at me. He said, "Well, where's the knife? I'm trying to cut up this meat." I said, "Well, I don't have any." And I didn't. He had no idea of what had happened to me. So at that point, he said, "Well, how can you have a kitchen that has no knives in it? I mean, you do cook." But I had gotten to a point where I had learned how to cope without having sharp knives in my kitchen, because for a while I was taking my kids out to eat. I was making enough money that I could do that. I didn't have to cook every day. And for certain things that I needed to have, like meats that I needed to have cooked, I had friends who would cook certain things and they would bring it already prepared, so I didn't have to put myself into that situation because it was really hard for me to handle a knife. And after explaining that, then he understood why there wasn't any, and I literally went through, with his help as well as therapy. I did seek therapy to help me to get over that, but it did take me a while before I could actually have knives in my kitchen again, simply because of that particular incident. So it's not, I'm telling you this because you can get over anxiety and stress and any kind of traumatic experience that you've gone through. It does take work, and I did have to seek therapy for it. So if you are in that state where you feel like that's what you need, then please do reach out. But I'm going to share with you certain things in addition to therapy that also helped me, and these are things that I use to this day, because and I'll share another story with you. Years later, I ended up getting diagnosed with lupus, and the question was, how do you have lupus? You're so fit, and there was all of these other questions that were going on. I was a martial artist. I had been very, very athletic when I was in middle school, high school, all the way through college. So you weren't looking at someone. Plus, I was eating well, so no one could understand why I was experiencing all of this. But it ended up that years later, I ended up with neuropathy. So my nerves were pretty much shot, and I ended up being diagnosed with lupus and a few other things. So these kind of events do cause major trauma to your body, and most of the time it is to your nervous system. That's the fight, flight, or freeze that I was talking about. That's predominantly what it affects, and I think that was one of the main things that caused the damage to my nervous system. Now I've processed a lot, and I am able to walk. I did used to use a cane, and I got to a point where I was also using a walker, and there were times when I couldn't walk because of all of the pain that I was experiencing. So I also ended up developing a mild case of claustrophobia, and it was really weird the way it happened, because I was having an MRI done on my brain, and I'd had one done with no problem whatsoever. But something happened, and somehow that got switched on again, and I got extreme anxiety while I was in there for my second one. This was about 3 years after, and I literally felt like I was being buried alive. And I could feel my lungs kind of sinking in, with your lying flat. So I could literally feel my lungs kind of sinking in, being compressed, and I was throwing a fit inside of this machine. Looking back, it's funny now, but when the nurse finally managed to get me out, she said, all you had to do was press the button. Nobody is thinking that rationally inside of a machine where it feels like a casket, and thinking that you're just going to press a button. I was literally trying to claw myself out of this machine. So I did end up developing some mild claustrophobia, which I've also worked through with the help of different things that I'm going to share with you. So I'm here to tell you that I experience anxiety myself. A lot of people don't know that because I wear it really well, as some people would say, and I've worked through it so much. It's taken me a while, but I'm here to say you can process it. I don't fake it. There are days when I do experience some anxiety. When the whole coronavirus thing came about, there were days when I'm sorry, I just cannot do this. I cannot go outside. No, please don't ask me to go out. I know that we need groceries, but I'm not going out there because I was afraid. But I've since, learned how to work through that as well. And I go out. Yes, I'm not out there being reckless, but I am cautious, and I do go out prepared, and I do take the necessary precautions that I'm supposed to take. So with all of that being said, with those little stories thrown in there, I'm going to go into a few things that have helped me in dealing with anxiety and stress, and I'm hoping that some of these will also help you if that's what you're experiencing right now. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about different essential oils that have helped, and I'm also going to give you a few blends that you could put together to help with some anxiety issues you might be experiencing. I'm also going to be talking about some herbs, as well as some minerals and supplements that will help, in addition to a few other things that can help on a regular basis. Now, these are not things that I take a one time and then I'm done. These are things that I do on a regular basis, okay? So some essential oils that are really good for anxiety. And I'm not going to go into any detail. There are other uses for these particular essential oils. And like I said, this video is going to be rather lengthy if I do go into a lot of details. So if you want details on some of them or on specific ones, then I can gladly do another live on those. So vetiver. And this is a very grounding essential oil. So whenever, I feel like I'm getting all tense, vetiver is one that I will reach for. Vetiver and lavender and frankincense. I use frankincense every single day in one form or another, whether it's an essential oil, whether I burn the incense, or I use it in my anti-inflammatory blend, which is made up of frankincense, turmeric, and ginger, as well as a little cayenne pepper. So frankincense is something that it's actually a resin, but there's an oil that is made from the resin itself. So I work with frankincense every single day. Bergamot, valerian, you can get the valerian essential oil. You can also get the valerian root. And I can tell you the valerian root absolutely stinks, but is really good for anxiety and really good for stress, and also helps you to sleep really well. But I prefer to use valerian as an oil rather than the actual herb or the root itself, because they're in its natural form, like the root, it really does smell horribly. But it is so good for stress and anxiety. So you can use a blend of maybe some bergamot, some valerian, and a little bit of lavender, and that's a really good anti-anxiety blend, and really good for relaxation. Other essential oils that are good for anxiety include chamomile, and you probably know about chamomile tea. Whenever you're feeling a little bit of stress, sipping on some chamomile tea can help to really relax you. It's the same with the essential oil. Geranium rose is also really good for anxiety. I mentioned vetiver already, and lavender. Those are just really comforting. You can get the lavender, lavender flowers just smell amazing. You can make a tea from the lavender flowers, but using the essential oil, the lavender essential oil, just by smelling that is just so calming, so comforting. So like I said, I have pages of notes here. If you're going through like really chronic stress, depression, and anxiety, some of the essential oils that are really good for that are clary sage. Clary sage is really calming, really soothing and uplifting. Other essential oils include jasmine, sweet orange essential oil, ylang ylang, and that's spelled Y-L-A-N-G. Bergamot I mentioned before. Peppermint, again, we are familiar with peppermint tea. Just sipping on a cup of hot peppermint tea can be so soothing and so relaxing. The same thing with the peppermint essential oil. Patchouli, I actually have a patchouli plant outside, but I love the patchouli essential oil. And patchouli essential oil is used a lot in perfuming. Lemon balm, again, lemon balm in a tea form is just so calming and so relaxing. And I also grow that in the herb. So I have a pot outside with some lemon balm. But using the essential oil just by inhaling or using it in your diffuser can really help with anxiety. Lemongrass as well, and if you grew up in the Caribbean, it's called fever grass. But lemongrass, fever grass, it's the same. We drank it to kind of help to relieve fever, but it's also really good for anxiety and stress. Other essential oils include fennel, which is really good for the gut because it's been proven that inflammation and anxiety are connected. So if you have inflammation in your gut, which is where most of our immune system is located, then of course there's going to be anxiety. So it would, suffice it to say that if you heal your gut, you're going to heal the anxiety issues that you might be experiencing. So food is a huge factor when it comes to healing from anxiety, because you want to make sure you're eating foods that are going to help your stomach, help your gut area, and then that also helps to relieve the anxiety and the depression and stress issues as well. So fennel is one of those herbs that's really good for the stomach. I mentioned chamomile already. Mandarin, any of the citrus essential oils like grapefruit, sweet orange, lime, lemon, those are really good for anxiety. Neroli is another one that is a citrus. Rose essential oil. Rose is the flower of love. So, of course, if we use the rose essential oil, it's basically a self-love thing. So, just inhaling that rose, and of course, rose is one of the more expensive essential oils. So, if you do get the rose essential oil, you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but it is definitely worth it. So, rose essential oil. I mentioned frankincense. Myrrh is also another one that's very grounding. So I know when people get really anxious, your shoulders tend to go up like this, and you're all up in your head. But myrrh and frankincense, those tend to kind of ground you a little bit and help you think a little bit more rationally. Really calming, really soothing. Rosemary can be a little stimulating, but it's also helps to relieve your stress levels. So that is one that I wouldn't call it, really calming and grounding, since it is a stimulating herb, but it does help to reduce your stress levels. And of course, rosemary, we cook with that. And I mentioned, and I think in every video that I've done previously, I mentioned food as being a huge factor in recovery from chronic illness, because your diet, I believe, plays a huge role in whether you get sick and whether you get better, and whether you not develop some chronic illness, because I believe that food can be your medicine. Okay. So here's another blend that you might be interested in for help with anxiety. Sweet orange, which is one of the citrus essential oils, ylang ylang, and lemongrass. They all smell so good together. Again, that blend is sweet orange, ylang ylang, and lemongrass. Here are a couple other blends that you might want to think about. This one is called Inner Peace and Calm, and it's 2 parts of lavender, and these are essential oils, but let me see if, no, this one you could make a tea with. All right, so this is the essential oil version. Inner Peace and Calm, 2 parts of lavender, 2 parts of geranium rose, 1 part of Roman chamomile, 1 part of clary sage, and 1 part of ylang ylang. And what you can do is once you have the blend made, you can simply take a couple drops and put into your diffuser and just have that diffuse in your room while you're sitting in your room or while you're working. Or you can also use it as a perfume and just simply put it onto your, your wrist or other points, and that will also help with kind of just calming you down a little bit. A relaxed blend: 4 parts of lavender, 3 parts of cedar wood, 3 parts of frankincense. And parts, by parts I mean, whether you use a cup or a tablespoon or a drop. So for 4 parts of lavender, it could be 4 drops of lavender, 3 drops of cedar wood, or 3 drops of frankincense. So that particular blend. And if you want to make a huge batch, then you could do 4 tablespoons of lavender, 4 tablespoons of cedar wood, 3 tablespoons of the frankincense. So when I say parts, I mean whatever batch you want to make, however big of a batch you want to make, that's what I mean. But usually I would just do the 4 drops lavender, 3 drops cedar wood, 3 drops frankincense, and then you can put that into your diffuser, put a couple drops into your diffuser and just have that diffuse in the room. Or you've made enough and you can just simply use it as a perfume. Okay? And by perfume, I don't, it's just, I know guys as well as girls use it. So it's just basically aromatherapy. So when I say perfume, that's what I mean. Use it as aromatherapy. By touching it onto your wrist, you could put it onto your neck, in different areas. This other one is called Stressless, and it's made with vetiver, lavender, Roman chamomile, marjoram or sweet marjoram, ylang ylang, sandalwood, and vanilla. And we know that vanilla just smells amazing. We use it to cook with or bake with, and the vanilla essential oil just smells. It is just so relaxing, so calming. There is a tea that I've made called Dare Me Relax Tea, and I forgot to bring it out. So what I'm going to do is I can post the link, post the tea blend for you if you want to make that yourself, or I can simply come on tomorrow and do a quick live talking about that particular tea blend, because it does include the plant version of a few of these essential oils that I've mentioned. All right, so so here's a couple other blends that you might want to think about. This one is if you're feeling extremely overwhelmed, then you just kind of need to, kind of rein in all of that emotion. So 2 parts of geranium or 2 drops of geranium, 2 of clary sage, 1 patchouli, and 1 of ylang ylang. And again, you can simply just use it in your diffuser, or you can use it as aromatherapy by, putting it, whether you use it in your diffuser or on your body, it's aromatherapy, but you can either put a couple drops into your diffuser, or you can simply use it on your body. Rub a couple drops in your hand, rub together, and just inhale. Or another thing you can do is to make an inhaler. There are different inhalers that you can buy where you can put the essential oils inside of it. And that's another thing I may do a quick DIY to show you, because I make those as well. All right, this blend that I'm going to tell you is very calming, very relaxing, and this is with 2 parts of cedar wood, 2 of wild orange, 1 ylang ylang, and 1 patchouli. And you can, like I mentioned just now, you make an inhaler. You can put it into your diffuser. Another way, guys, I don't know if guys do this anymore. Maurice, you can tell me if they do or not. Carry handkerchiefs. I know it was when I was growing up, all the guys had handkerchiefs in their pockets, either in their jacket pocket or in their pockets. Women, I know, used to do that as well. That was like the thing, to carry around your own nice fancy little handkerchief. So if you still do that, you could easily just put any particular blend, just put a couple drops into your handkerchief and just simply smell your handkerchief and just carry it around with you, or putting it onto maybe a cotton ball or on a piece of tissue. If you're driving, I wouldn't suggest, because some of these essential oils can be very, very relaxing, and some of them even sedating. So I wouldn't, it depends on the essential oils that you're using, whether you use them in your car while you're driving or not. Lemon is really good for keeping focus if you're driving. If I'm feeling kind of tired, I would put a couple drops onto a cotton ball, couple drops of lemon essential oil onto a cotton ball and just stick it into the AC vent. And as the air blows, then it kind of helps me to perk up a little bit. But something like valerian root, I would not put, because that is very sedating. So you certainly don't want to be sedated while you're driving, right? So basically, do a little bit of research into these essential oils that I'm mentioning, and some of the blends that I'm talking about would be safe for you to use while you're driving. But if you're just looking for like a quick pick me up, use it on just put it a couple drops on your handkerchief, on a cotton ball, and a piece of tissue, or into an inhaler. Okay, this next part, if you're like me and you're lying down in the nighttime, and my brain for some reason just doesn't want to shut off, so I'm laying in bed and I'm supposed to be trying to fall asleep, but my brain just keeps going, and I'm thinking about everything that's happened throughout the day and things that I need to get done tomorrow, and it's just constantly going. I know there are a lot of people who are like that, and it's so hard to fall asleep. Okay, so this one is called midnight chatter. So for those of you who have difficulty at night falling asleep, this one will kind of help to kind of shut off your brain just a little bit, quiet your brain down at night. So this one is 2 parts of clary sage, 1 part of bergamot or bergamot, depending on how you pronounce it, and 2 of lavender. So 2 clary sage, 2 lavender, 1 bergamot. And that will kind of help to calm down your brain at night to really get you into ready to sleep. Okay? If you have any questions, just simply post them below. All right, so let me talk a little bit about, I think I mentioned before, food, I believe, is huge when it comes to any illness at all. Whether you're dealing with a chronic illness like lupus or other diseases, or you just simply have like mild anxiety throughout the day, I believe food is critical. What you put into your body, I think that pretty much determines your health. And like I said, your gut health, if your gut health if it's not great, then I think it helps to trigger a lot of illnesses that people experience. So what you put into your mouth, I think that's one thing that we can certainly control, is what goes into our bodies. And the food that we eat certainly can help with the anxiety issues or the stress issues that we might be experiencing on a daily basis, right? So here are a few things that I've mentioned some of them before. These are different herbs and different teas that you might want to try. Turmeric and ginger, which I mentioned before. My anti-inflammatory blend is frankincense, turmeric, and ginger, and periodically I put in some cayenne pepper, or you can put in another type of pepper. It's entirely up to you. But that is really, really good for the gut. Ginger, we know when you have an upset stomach, you drink ginger tea or you chew on a piece of ginger, and that certainly helps, right? Lemon balm tea, which I mentioned before. Peppermint tea, mentioned that as well. Ginger tea, chamomile tea. You can, if you've never made lavender lemonade, try making some lavender lemonade with the lavender flowers. Hi Paula, good to see you. So if you try to make some lavender lemonade, just get some of the lavender flowers, and just like how you'd make lemonade, you just simply add the lavender flowers and infuse that in there, and it's really, really good. Happy Thursday. So lavender lemonade is something that I like to make as well. Watermelon can actually be really, really good for stress and anxiety. And I know that it's coming close to summer, and during summertime you don't really hear about a lot of people really having high anxiety, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that there's so much sunshine as well. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that with vitamin D and being in the sun as well. Catnip, I know we hear about catnip, and it's not just for cats. Catnip tea is actually really good for calming your nerves, and really helps with stress and anxiety. I mentioned valerian root as well. Valerian root, like I said, I don't really care for the actual tea because it just smells so bad, but the valerian essential oil is the way that I prefer to use it. You might not necessarily find that it stinks, because I think everybody might have their own level of stink, but the valerian root, most people say that it does smell really, really horribly. The other thing that I haven't really talked a whole lot about that I do work with on a daily basis is CBD oil. And that's probably a whole other video right there, but I do work with CBD oil on a regular basis, just taking it under my tongue, about 10 drops a day. That's all I really need. So I know that a lot of people have worked with CBD oil to help with anxiety issues as well. Here's another, this is a tea blend that you might want to try. So this is not an essential oil blend. This one is with the actual herbs. So lavender, if you combine lavender, some elderflowers. I've mentioned elderberries before, but these are the flowers from the elderberry bush. Schisandra berries, lemongrass, and I mentioned lemongrass before as well. Spearmint, ginger, and hawthorn berry. That particular blend is really good for anxiety. So again, that's lavender, elderflower, schisandra berry, lemongrass, spearmint, ginger, and hawthorn berries. And what I'll do is I'll put the spelling for some of these in the comment section so you don't have any trouble when you go back to watch the replay. Okay. Another thing I want you to remember, I mentioned, the gut and anxiety connection. When you have gut issues, anxiety levels tend to be elevated. So if you heal the gut, you're going to heal those anxiety issues. Heal the gut, you're going to heal chronic illness concerns as well. Work with your body as a whole system. Not so many of us try to separate the brain from the heart, from the stomach, and when in all actuality we have technically 3 brains. One of your brains is located in your gut. The other brain is in your head, and then you have your heart is also technically considered a brain. And when you work with all of those together, mind, body, spirit, you find that everything tends to work much better rather than trying to separate one and treat one particular part separate from the rest of the body. Because you have to think of your body in terms of a whole entity. So don't, and that's why I mentioned yesterday that I have a whole team of doctors that all talk to each other as well. It's not that I see my cardiologist and then I have to beg that cardiologist to send the stuff to they all talk to each other, because they realize that all of those organs that they're all specialized in, they're all housed within the same body. So we can't really work on one particular organ and forget that it's actually connected to the other organ. Okay, so work with your body as a whole entity, not trying to separate. But I do believe that what we put into our mouths is hugely connected to what we manifest as far as illness or health. Let's see, mention that. I'm going to talk a little bit about other modalities that I've worked with that I know would help. Supplements, because I did mention the sun just a couple of minutes ago, and how during the summertime it doesn't seem that too many people are dealing with anxiety. Well, that's because the sun provides vitamin D. We spend a lot of time at the beach, we spend a lot of time in the sun, and we're absorbing a lot of vitamin D. So vitamin D is one of those supplements that everybody should have, and there's a lot of people who are actually deficient in vitamin D. And funny enough, even though I spend a lot of time in the sun, my body doesn't absorb the vitamin D that it needs. So once a week I take a 50,000 IU capsule of vitamin D just to ensure that I'm getting enough vitamin D. Not everybody has that issue. So if you can spend time in the sun, do spend time in the sun, because your body is in need of vitamin D, and that vitamin D is responsible for so many different functions in your body. So if you become deficient in vitamin D, it triggers a lot of health concerns within your body. So make sure you check on your vitamin D levels. The other thing you want to check on is your B12 levels, and I've mentioned B12 before as well. Other supplements you might want to consider is one called L-theanine, which you can get from black tea. You can also get it from green tea. So if you're drinking a lot of those, then you're getting the L-theanine. St. John's wort is one herb that has been researched a lot for anxiety and for stress and for depression. So you might want to do a lot more research into the St. John's wort, though, because I worked with this many years ago, and it turned out that people who, well, for me anyway, it kind of made me allergic to the sun. So I found out that when I was actually working with St. John's wort, I couldn't go out into the sun as much. So that is one caveat that I want to say about St. John's wort. So do your research into that one. Even though there's a lot of research that says it's really good for depression and for stress and that sort of thing, you do want to do some major research into that and into anything that I'm mentioning here. Don't just take my word for it. I'm just sharing with you things that actually have helped me. But I know St. John's wort is extremely helpful for that as well. It's just not one that I work with anymore. It might not give you those concerns, but it definitely did with me. Magnesium, I've mentioned magnesium many times as far as working with Epsom salts, doing the Epsom salt baths, simply putting a cup of it into the tub and just soaking in there. Or you can take magnesium supplements by mouth. It's, you know, however you choose to work with it. You can also find lotions, you know, that you can actually rub on and get your magnesium in that way. But magnesium is responsible for hundreds of daily functions in your body. So that's the one thing you don't want to be deficient in either. There's so many things that needs magnesium within your body. So make sure that your vitamin D levels, I mentioned, your B12 and magnesium, make sure you check on those levels, especially those. Eating dark leafy greens like avocados and nuts, you can get magnesium from those, but also taking your Epsom salt baths, that will also help. I have a whole page of notes here that I want to share with you. The Native Americans have been working with passion flower for hundreds of years, and you've probably heard of passion flower. So that is one particular herb that you might want to consider for anxiety as well. It's used for a lot of other things. So again, do your research into any of these herbs that I'm mentioning before you actually try to use them. And here's another caveat. If you are taking pharmaceutical medication, please do not add any of these herbs into your daily, your routine without consulting with your doctor first. Or if you're going to try to add some of these in, consult with an herbalist to let them know what particular medications you're taking, because herbal supplements can interfere with some of the pharmaceuticals. St. John's wort, especially if you're taking any kind of antidepressant medication or anti-anxiety medication, taking St. John's wort is going to cause a problem. So you definitely want to make sure that you're consulting with your doctor or with an herbalist to make sure that they're working with you as far as if you're taking any kind of pharmaceutical medication. And even if you're not, you still want to make sure you're working with someone. Don't try to add in too many of these into your routine at one time. Try maybe some lemon balm tea, or try maybe some ginger tea, or a few of the essential oils that I'm talking about. But don't try to throw in a bunch of things. If something were to go wrong, you don't know which one you're having a reaction to, right? Please excuse the noise outside. My neighbor is having fun with his motorcycle. All right, so another supplement you might want to look into, which is really good for anxiety, is zinc. Omega-3 is another one, and of course, most of us know about omega-3s. You get that from salmon. You can also get, if you're vegan and you don't want to eat salmon, you can also get omega-3s from chia seeds, and you can also get it from flax seeds. So there are different ways of getting these different supplements. Dark chocolate is also really good for anxiety. Not your regular chocolate, not your, the dark chocolate. Find yourself some cacao and try to integrate that, and you get your chocolate fix as well as you get the relief from anxiety as well. And I mentioned turmeric. Turmeric came up quite a bit. Frankincense, turmeric, and ginger, and cayenne. That's my anti-inflammatory blend. Of course, turmeric has also been researched over and over. There's tons of research on the internet that you can go and find, and that can tell you just how much of a benefit turmeric is, not just for anxiety, but for inflammation and a host of other things. Okay, so if you haven't heard about turmeric, do your research. Trust me, you're going to love it. I mentioned valerian root as well. Valerian root is actually called nature's Valium. So it is that's why I said if you're taking valerian root, do not drive, because it is very, very sedating. Some other supplements that are really good for anxiety include GABA, and you can get that in a supplement form, like a pill form. You can also get it from eating certain foods like kimchi, because different fermented foods actually, that's the best place to get the GABA from. You can also get GABA from yogurt. And I think that is everything that I wanted to mention on there. Other strategies for helping with anxiety. The main one, if you do suffer from anxiety, reduce your caffeine intake, because caffeine does tend to elevate the anxiety issues that you might be experiencing. So if you drink caffeine or if you drink coffee every day, or if you drink a lot of things that have caffeine in them, and you find that you're just really buzzy or have high anxiety on a daily basis, that could be why. So you might want to just reduce how much coffee you're drinking or how much caffeinated sodas that you're drinking, just to see if that will help to reduce the anxiety level that you might be experiencing. So reduce caffeine. Other things that have helped, that I've also worked with, that have helped me, include meditation. Your spiritual life is huge when it comes to recovering from, it's very critical when it comes to recovering from any kind of chronic illness or anxiety, stress. If you don't have an active spiritual life, it might be a good thing to, whatever religion you're a part of, or that you were raised in, it might be a good idea to just go back and reawaken that part of you. So praying, meditating, do a meditation on a daily basis, and sometimes several times a day, because it's just, to me, it's just very grounding. Getting back into nature is also really good for anxiety. And I mentioned, with summer coming, getting out, going on to the beach, depending on where you live and how much of the state is opened. I'm recording this during the corona times, so it all depends on what's opened. If you can get into a park, if parks are opened, just walking around and under those trees, and that just, to me, that's like the thing. The beach and walking under trees, I just love to do that. So you can get just so much relief just from being out in nature. And while you're out there, take off your shoes and just walk around bare feet if you can. If there's a lot of grass, just take off your shoes, walk around bare feet, and ground yourself, because the earth has a magnetic field that actually connects with your own magnetic field, and that just helps to ground you and just to relieve some of those anxiety issues that you might be experiencing. Are we able to purchase oils from you? When you say the oils, or you mean the essential oil blends that I mentioned? If the essential oil blends, that I can certainly make them for you, if that's what you want. But I can also send you to different reputable sites that sell essential oils, and you can purchase them for yourself and make the blends yourself. Either way, you can let me know. But I can certainly post links below that will that I can send you to, that I believe are some of the best essential oil companies out there. There are some very expensive ones, and you can find those as well, but there are also less expensive ones that are just as good. So you let me know. If you want me to make something, I can do that, or I can just guide you to different places that you can purchase them, and you can always come back to the video and get the particular recipes and make them yourself. Either way, okay? Thanks for asking that, Paula. Other things that I've worked with as far as helping to relieve anxiety include, I mentioned walking barefoot. It's called earthing or grounding. I've also worked with music. When you're feeling kind of down, you put on your favorite music, right? You just kind of dance around. Movement, it doesn't, whether you're exercising, whether you're dancing, whether you're out walking, just the idea of getting your body moving, that also helps with helping to relieve anxiety issues. You don't have to have rhythm to get up and dance. And there are numerous videos on YouTube. Find yourself some calypso music, some reggae music. I mean, those are my things because I am from the Caribbean. But if you're into belly dancing, which I love to do, there are also belly dancing videos on YouTube that you can, just one day just, put one on and just see how it makes you feel. But just the idea of moving kind of helps to release all of that tension, all of that anxiety from your body as well. All right? Scents, and I've mentioned scents as in SCENT. I mentioned that a lot with the aromatherapy from essential oils, but you can also find them in candles. If you get some nicely scented candles and burn those, there's the aroma that's coming from them, that can also be very uplifting. But also be very careful of the type of candles that you're burning, because some of them what's being given off can also be very toxic. So be very careful of the type of candles that you're burning as well. I agree, Gina. These are some ridiculous there are some ridiculous essential oil companies out there. Yes, there are some very expensive ones, and there's no need to spend $60 on. Now, don't get me wrong. Frankincense, I know, is a very expensive oil. Rose is a very expensive essential oil. So those two you're going to be prepared to spend a little bit more on, but the others, you really don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get really, really good essential oil. Okay. All right. Now at nighttime, and this has worked for me in the beginning. This is one of the things that I actually tried, and it works for a lot of people, especially people who have PTSD. It's a weighted blanket. So if you're having a lot of trouble at night, just falling asleep, and I mentioned earlier about the essential oil blend that kind of helps to ease that midnight chatter in your brain. Using the essential oils in addition to using a weighted blanket, that can also help to relieve some of the anxiety that you might be experiencing. So I know the weighted blanket worked for me, and it works for a lot of people. And if you've never tried it, just do a little bit of research on weighted blankets if you think that might be helpful for you. There are also some adaptogenic herbs that I've worked with, and I work with them on a daily basis. Let me just grab this. In here is my herbal coffee, but in my herbal coffee, it also contains my adaptogenic blend. And what I'll do is, I think I'll do a separate video on that, but I'll mention some of the herbs that I use in here. Then those are really good for anxiety. They're also really good for inflammation. But the word adaptogenic, basically is helping your body to adapt, and they all work in a way that, gosh, if there's a certain thing in your body that's too high, it kind of brings it down, and if there's something that's too low, it kind of brings it up. So it kind of balances the body, right? In a nutshell. So some of those adaptogenic herbs, you may have heard of ashwagandha. You may have heard of astragalus. Larry, it's good to see you. Astragalus is another adaptogenic herb that I work with regularly. Siberian ginseng is another one. Licorice root, turmeric comes up again. I've mentioned that probably 5 times at least so far. And another one called tulsi, which I guess the regular name is holy basil. But if you see tulsi or holy basil, it's the same thing. So these are some adaptogenic herbs that you might want to think about to help you with some, whatever anxiety or stress issues that you might be experiencing. And I think that might be it. I know I threw a lot at you today, didn't I? But the thing is, this video is going to be here for you. You can always come back and replay, and make your notes, because I know I threw a lot at you. And another thing is, please do your research on these. Don't take my word for it. I didn't really go into a lot of detail into any of the essential oils because there's just so much. We would have been here forever. But I wanted you to have the information, and you can do your research on your own. A lot of these essential oils that I mentioned, and the herbs as well, will probably come up as being good for other things, because that's the beauty of nature. There's not just this one thing isn't good for just one thing. It can be good for so many other things as well. So do your research, come back to the video as many times as you need to, post your questions below, and I will gladly answer them either here or either in the comments, or I will do a separate post on them. I will leave you with this, and there's a book that you can get by the same name. When you heal the cell, you actually get well. And by the cell, I'm talking about, all the different cells in your body. So feed your body well. Take the necessary supplements. Get checked to make sure all of your, the minerals in your bodies, or the levels are where they're supposed to be. And work with your body as a whole. Don't try to separate your brain from your stomach. And feed your body well, because what goes in pretty much determines what comes out of your body, right? Whether that be illness or whether that be health. And we're all aiming for health, right? And to me, food is the biggest and the one thing that we can actually control. You can control what goes into your mouth. So think of food as being the best medicine that you could possibly utilize today and for days to come. Do you guys have any questions? I know I've answered them as we kind of went along. But if you do have questions, just simply post them. And like I said, this video is going to be here. I will constantly check back on all of the videos that I've posted so far to see if there are any questions there. I'm going to post video 3 or day 3 below in the comment section for this one. But there are also a couple others that you might want to go back and check out as well. This is going to be a 21-day series. This is day 4 so far. So come back tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I never know what I'm going to talk about. I will literally get off of this live and then it'll hit me, oh, I should have talked about that. Okay, so I'll talk about it tomorrow. But every single day there's going to be something different. But it's going to be something that I hope will help you all in building your immunity, because right now that is the important thing, right? We want to make sure that we're well, so that whenever some illness comes along, whether it be the common cold or the flu or the coronavirus or something else comes along, that our bodies can handle it and we don't have to be worried about whether we're going to get sick, because we're taking steps and implementing wellness from within, right? Hoping that makes sense. All right, so I'm so glad that you all joined me today, and I will see you all tomorrow. Please post your questions and comments, and I will be back to address those either here or in a separate live if you so desire. I will also post the links to the different essential places that you can purchase the essential oils if you're interested in creating some blends for yourself as well. I appreciate all of you being here and spending this time with me. I keep saying that I'm only going to be here for 20 minutes and then we're here 45 minutes later, but it's okay, because I'm giving you some information that I hope is very valuable and helpful to you. But I am so glad to have you join me and spending this amount of time with me, because I know that time is valuable. So just you being here is very precious to me. Thank you for taking the time to spend with me. And I will see you all again tomorrow. I love you all, and stay safe.